Overthinking is not a personality trait, it is a slow-acting poison that kills more dreams than failure ever will. Right now, you are likely paralyzed. You have 10 browser tabs open, 3 half-finished plans in a notebook, and a brain that refuses to shut up long enough for you to take a single step. You tell yourself you're preparing, but the truth is, you're just terrified. You are standing at the edge of the water, calculating the temperature, the depth, and the current, while the people who simply jumped in are already miles ahead of you. This is the story of a man who almost let his mind become his prison. But what happened next, nobody expected. Elias worked the graveyard shift as a security guard at a massive, silent freight yard in New Jersey. The air always smelled like diesel and wet concrete. At 3 a.m., the only sound was the hum of the perimeter fence and the frantic scratching of his own pen. Elias wasn't uneducated. He was a researcher. He had a cracked smartphone screen taped at the corner and a stack of notebooks filled with the plan. His dream was to launch a specialized logistics consultancy. He knew the routes, the costs, and the gaps better than the CEOs. But he hadn't made a single phone call. His flaw was a crippling fear of being wrong. He'd spend 4 hours choosing the perfect font for a business proposal that he hadn't even written yet. His motivation sat in a small apartment 3 blocks away, his 7-year-old daughter, Maya. She was sleeping on a mattress that sagged in the middle, and she needed braces that Elias couldn't afford. Every morning, he'd come home with cold coffee breath and tell her, "Soon, Maya. I'm just making sure the plan is perfect." But the perfect plan was a ghost. His shoes were worn thin at the heels, and his bank account was a series of red numbers that kept him awake during the day. Emotional peak when it happened on a Tuesday. The rain was coming down in gray sheets. Elias was staring at a draft email to a potential investor. He had rewritten the subject line 22 times. Is inquiry too formal? Is opportunity too desperate? Suddenly, his phone buzzed. It was his landlord, Mr. Henderson. "Elias, the grace period ended yesterday. If the full rent isn't in the box by Friday, I'm changing the locks. I have a list of people who don't need time to think." Elias felt a cold spike of adrenaline. He looked at his notebooks, months of research, hundreds of hours of planning, and realized they were worthless. He had spent a year thinking about a business while his daughter was 4 days away from being homeless. He threw the notebook against the metal locker. It hit with a dull thud. The realization was a physical weight. He wasn't a perfectionist. He was a coward hiding behind a spreadsheet. He put his head in his hands and wept, the sound drowned out by the rain on the corrugated roof. He knew this feeling, the suffocating realization that your own mind is the one holding the blade to your throat. The next morning at dawn, Elias didn't go home. He sat on a rusted bench near the shipping docks. An old man named Silas, who spent his mornings untangling fishing lines, watched him. Silas didn't give speeches. He just pointed at a tangled mess of nylon in his lap. "You know why most people never catch anything, son?" Silas asked without looking up. "Because they spend so much time making sure the knot is pretty that the tide goes out before they ever cast the line." Elias looked at the tangled line. "I just don't want to fail." Silas laughed, a dry, raspy sound. "You're already failing. You're just doing it quietly. Listen to me. You spend 2 hours a day worrying. That's 730 hours a year. That is 3 full months of your life spent staring at a wall. You don't need a better plan. You need a shorter fuse." Silas handed him a small, heavy stone. "Every time you start thinking about a task for more than 5 minutes, drop this stone on your foot. Or, better yet, just do the one thing you're most afraid of. Don't think, just move your hands." Elias realized the secret wasn't more information. It was aggressive imperfection. He decided right there, no more research, no more fonts, just raw, ugly action. Emotional peak 2. Elias went to a local warehouse office the next day. No appointment. His heart was hammering against his ribs like a trapped bird. He walked up to the manager, a gruff woman named Sarah, and pitched his logistics strategy. He stumbled. He forgot his statistics. He looked like a man who hadn't slept because he hadn't. Sarah looked at him, then at his stained shirt. "You want me to trust my freight to a guy who looks like he just crawled out of a container? Come back when you have a professional presentation." He walked out into the cold air. The overthinking voice roared back, "I told you. You weren't ready. You should have practiced more. You ruined your only shot." He almost went back to the freight yard to hide. He almost picked up his notebook to start revising. This was the moment where most people quit, the moment where the first attempt fails and the mind says, "See, thinking was safer." But Elias remembered the 730 hours. He refused to give them back to the ghost of worry. He didn't go home to think about what went wrong. He walked across the street to the next warehouse. He didn't fix his speech. He just spoke faster. He told the next manager, "I can save you 12% on your shipping costs by rerouting through the North Terminal. I've watched the trucks for 3 years. I don't have a fancy slide deck, but I have the data in my head. Do you want to save money or do you want to look at a PowerPoint?" The manager paused. "Show me." For the next 3 days, Elias worked like a man possessed. He didn't allow himself to look at a screen for more than 10 minutes. If he felt a "what if" coming on, he immediately picked up the phone. He called 20 vendors. 18 hung up. 2 listened. He earned his first contract, a small, messy, disorganized route that paid barely enough to cover the rent. It wasn't perfect. It was a start. Emotional peak 3 by Friday, Elias stood at the rent box. He didn't have a perfectly scaled business. He had a check that was slightly wrinkled and a body that ached with exhaustion. He slid the envelope into the slot. He went home and found Maya sitting at the kitchen table. He didn't tell her soon this time. He sat down, opened a new notebook, one without any plans in it, and wrote, "Today, we started." The win wasn't the money. The win was the silence in his head. The trap was gone because he was moving too fast for it to catch him. He realized he deserved this life not because he was the smartest person in the room, but because he was the one who refused to stay in his head. He had earned his daughter's future through the pain of doing, not the comfort of dreaming. 1 year later, Elias doesn't work the graveyard shift. He owns a small office overlooking that same freight yard. He still doesn't have the perfect plan, and he never will, because he discovered that done is better than perfect, and moving is better than planning. Overthinking is just a sophisticated way of being lazy. It feels like work, but it produces nothing. Your action for today is this. Pick one thing you have been planning for more than a month. Tonight, before you go to sleep, you must finish the first step in its messiest, ugliest form. Send the email. Buy the domain. Call the person. Do not prepare. Just start. I have one question for you. What is the one thing you keep starting in your head but never finish in real life? Tell me in the comments. You didn't click this video by accident. This story was meant for you. Now, stop thinking, and go work.